What's going on YouTube? So for the people out there that still care about driving, the Mazda 3 has always been a great alternative to the traditional boring options. But over the last few years, Mazda has also been on a mission to move upscale. So this all-new 3 represents the brand's most comprehensive redesign since going down that new path. That's why we're excited to be checking out this fully loaded Mazda 3 Premium today at Paul Miller Mazda in Lexington. Of course, if you're in the market for any new Mazda, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that said, let's see if the new 3 can add luxury without losing the sportiness it's known for. So like always, starting out with the exterior styling, the smiley face is nothing but a distant memory. We now have the latest version of the Kodo design language, with the large and low-slung grille. It'll look this way on every single model, including the chrome part that goes up under the headlights. Now these lights are one of the most premium aspects of the new design, since they will always be LED on every trim. However, this premium model does have a little bit of a fancier arrangement, as well as adaptive abilities. And then down at the bottom, fog lights have been eliminated this year. Moving to the side, it's got a real sleek look, and it is about 3 inches larger than last year. It is also about 8 inches larger than the hatchback, which I think contributes to it overall being the more sophisticated looking of the two. And then moving around back, the design here has also changed substantially from last year, not in the least because the license plate has moved from the trunk to the bumper. We also have elegant looking full LED taillights and exposed dual exhaust, which used to be only a hatchback thing. But all in all, Mazda has done an impressive job with the exterior. This is a seriously attractive sedan that looks a lot more expensive than it really is. Now one of the things Mazda always likes to do is give you really nice wheels on most of the trims. That is the case here, since these large 18-inch alloys are standard on all but the very base model. That model instead comes with 16-inch alloys. Heading on up to the mirrors, they are always body colored and power adjusting. Plus you get blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, standard on all but the base model. Now as far as all the other advanced safety systems, they too are standard on all but the base model. The iActive Sense suite includes forward emergency braking, lane keeping assist, automatic high beam headlights, and adaptive cruise control with stop and go. Those features used to be optional on only the top trim. Finally, as the last thing on the outside, the 3 sedan has either a 13.2 or 12.7 gallon fuel tank, with front or all-wheel drive respectively. That puts the fuel range of the standard front-wheel drive version at just a touch under 400 miles on regular unleaded fuel. Well, that's it for the all-new exterior. But now let's go ahead and check out the bigger changes on the inside. So every version of the 3 does come standard with Mazda's brand new key fob. As you can see, it actually looks a lot like Volvo. It's got a nice square shape, and then you got your buttons located here on the side. Now when you go for the Select package or higher, you also get the intelligent entry system. And Mazda has nicely upgraded the door handle this year. You now have a sensor behind it, so you don't have to press any types of buttons. Alright, so checking out the cabin of the all-new 2019 Mazda 3. As you can see, it has a seriously premium vibe. Now as far as your colors and material options, you do have different ones for each trim level. So on your base model, you're looking at cloth in black only. However, when you go up to your select or preferred trim, you'll go to leatherette in black or grayish, which of course is gray and beige mixed together. Finally, when you go up to the top trim premium, like what we have here, you get upgraded to real leather in either this black or a white color scheme. However, you cannot get the red color that you can on the hatchback model. Now turning over here to your door trim, this is without a doubt the most upscale door trim in the class. So as you can see, you have leather all through the armrest portion. Above it, another area with a really nice color contrast stitching detail. It is soft touch across the top. And then my favorite aspect is we have real metal speaker grills here on this premium model. Looks really, really classy. As far as your windows, they have changed the switchgear out this year, and all 4 of them are one-touch automatic. Now coming down to your seat here, the bottom 2 trims will come with a manual seat. However, the other 2 trims will come with this 8-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. You do also have 2-person memory seating located right here. Now like I was saying, on this premium model, this is real leather, and it definitely feels that way. Very soft, very supple, and definitely looks nice with this perforation. So first, looking around the cabin, this is definitely a place that makes a great first impression. And then once you start feeling around on the materials, it definitely supports that with the highest quality materials in the class. So across your upper dash, you do have a nice soft touch plastic. And then dropping down to this middle portion, as you can see, you've got this really large and nice looking swath of leatherette with some color contrast stitching. That does travel over here to the other side as well. Dropping down to your lower areas, they are also padded with that same leatherette material with color contrast stitching, and that seamlessly goes up here to the armrest, so you've got this nice area you can rest your arm on. And overall, everything in here looks nice and definitely feels well put together. Now every Mazda 3 does come standard with push button start. And when you press it, you will see this brand new 8.8-inch display. This is standard across all the trims, which is really impressive for something in this class. And starting up here, you might notice that there's actually a brand new chime. You know, Mazda has really changed a lot of different things in this vehicle, including tiny things like the switchgear and even that chime, so it really makes it feel brand new. Now, as far as the gauges over here, what you're looking at is the 7-inch digital display. This is actually standard across all the trims as well, even though on models like the Mazda 6, you have to go up to the upper trims to get this. This is reconfigurable, so you just press this info button and you can cycle through some different types of displays like your safety systems and whatnot. But it is very nice looking, and it does make a cool animation when it starts up. Now, in addition to that, you will also notice a head-up display here on the premium trim. And it is the new projection style. The old one had that flip-up display, but this one projects right onto the windshield. Now, coming back to the steering wheel, all models do have electric power-assisted steering. And you will notice a leather-wrapped steering wheel on the Select trim and up. Now the wheel itself does have a new design this year, so you've got kind of these thin rims here with new metallic buttons. And on this side, you've got your controls for some of your safety systems as well as your adaptive cruise control. Additionally, you'll find rain-sensing wipers on all but the base model, which is another rare feature for the class, especially to be included on most of the trims. As far as the wheel itself, it is manually tilt and telescoping, and I don't think heating is available. But anyways, moving on to interior storage, the Mazda 3 has plenty of it, especially since this is a relatively small car. So starting out with your center console here, kind of slide it back and then lift up. As you can see, this is actually very large, and you do have a nice felt lining down at the bottom. Also within here, you've got one of your USB ports as well as a 12-volt outlet. Like I was saying, this does slide so that you can adjust it to different heights for your armrest. And up here you've got a covered cup holders, and then in front of that you've got another pretty large bin to stick your phone and whatnot, as well as another USB port above it. Qi wireless charging is available as a standalone option. Now, as far as your shifter, Mazda hasn't done anything complicated. It's just your traditional shifter. So you pull back for drive, and then you can bump over here to the left to shift manually. Additionally, here on the premium model, we also have paddle shifters up on the wheel. Now, heading into reverse, you will notice a standard backup camera across all the trims. However, even on this upper trim premium, you do not have active trajectory. Then back behind the shifter, you've got an automatic power parking brake, as well as a brake hold feature. Now, one of the things that's changed this year is a brand new Mazda Connect system, as well as a brand new Mazda Connect controller, and we'll get into that a little later in the video, but this is the only way to control the system now since the display is no longer touch. And then shifting on over to our Audi-esque audio controls here, we've got the upgraded 12-speaker Bose premium audio system that comes on the preferred and the premium trims, and the other two trims come with an 8-speaker sound system. But let's go ahead and take a sample of this upgraded system. I have to say, this is a genuinely impressive sounding sound system, especially in the sphere of compact cars where the sound systems tend to be really bad. But anyways, we'll head on up here to our climate controls now. This is the dual zone automatic climate setup. It comes on all the trims except the very base model, which comes with a manual setup. And as you can see, you do have nice physical controls for all the basic stuff like your temperatures. You have the little buttons here to control the fan speed as well as your zones. And then below that, you will find 3-stage heated seats on the top 2 trims. But anyways, now that brings us up here to our brand new Mazda Connect system. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. So like I already mentioned, this is not a touch display anymore. You used to be able to have touch responsiveness at up to 5 miles an hour, but now this is pushed way far out of the way into the driver's line of sight, but also slightly out of their reach. So you now exclusively use the Mazda controller. Now, as you can see, you do have brand new graphics on board here, but mostly the same sections and the same information within those sections, so it shouldn't be too confusing to people making the switch. Now, inside of the information, this is where you'll find your applications. And on all but the very base model, you will have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as one of those applications. Going on down, you also have a section for your navigation system. It is an available option across all the trim levels, so you just buy an SD card from your dealership if you want that. But that's pretty much the main gist of the brand new Mazda Connect system. Of course, we will make a tech help video explaining these things in more detail, and if you want to look at that, a link to that is in the video description. Heading on up here, we do have a frameless mirror. And then here on this premium model, we also have a power moonroof. Now, this is just the traditional size unit, however, we do have a wind buffer up here. But anyways, as I've been saying throughout this entire review, this is a seriously impressive cabin. Not just for the class, but really for any type of car. This is a very luxurious space, has lots of premium touches like those speaker grills, as well as the leather everywhere. I've been in not 100% of the rivals, but almost 100% of the rivals, and this definitely, to me, is the best cabin in the class. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will finish up the rest of the cabin.
So checking out the rear seat of the all-new 2019 Mazda 3, you're going to find a really nice space, especially for its class. You'll find 35 inches of rear legroom and 37 inches of rear headroom, which does place it a little bit below the Toyota Corolla and Honda Civic. Now turning over here to the door trim, this is probably the nicest door trim in the class. So back here, even on the back door trim, we have a really nicely padded leather armrest, and it is even leather wrapped above that, and it does even have another leather wrap portion up here with some stitching going through it. Now your door handle is nicely integrated, and you do also have a fully automatic window back here. Now in addition to that, you do have some door storage, and the seat itself is a beautiful design. It's the same perforated leather as in the front. It's very supple feeling, and it also is a very comfortable seat. Now here in the center area, you aren't going to find any features or anything, which is definitely not expected for the class. But turning over, you do have a nice armrest. It does fold down, it's leather wrapped, and it has cup holders in the end. Now it is worth noting that even though this is the fully loaded model, it does not have heated rear seats like the Honda Civic. But up top we do have a really nice headliner, some LED dome lighting, an assist grip, and a coat hook. And like I was mentioning earlier with the space, this is not the biggest among its rivals. However, there is still plenty of space behind Drew's seating position, so I probably have 6 inches of rear legroom, and my feet don't have any trouble sliding up under the seat. And with the seat scooted all the way back, I am still quite comfortable and still have a few inches of rear legroom. But overall, I really like the Mazda 3's rear seat. This is a great place to spend time. It feels very luxurious back here, and it also has plenty of space. Now coming around to the trunk, to open it up, all you have to do is locate the little button under the Mazda emblem, and it will open right up. Now once inside, you are going to find 13.2 cubic feet of space, which is good for its class. And inside, you are going to find plenty of space, and if this is not enough space for you, there is a hatchback version of the Mazda 3. Now like I said, this is a nice space to spend time, and you do have a really nice finish back here, so you have a nicely carpeted floorboard. And underneath of the floor, you do have a spare tire, which is rare for the class. And the seats do fold if you use these levers right here. Now the passenger seat is the same design as the driver's. It's a really nice design, and it is manually adjusting on all models. Now in front of the passenger, you are going to find amazing materials for its class. So you will find this leather padded area above it, as well as a soft touch dashboard. And down below that, the glove box is really large, and it goes back quite a ways, and it is also illuminated. Up top, we have a sun visor with a mirror and LED light, and it can also detach, and it has an extension in the end. But anyway, guys, that sums up all of the rear areas of the all-new Mazda 3. So now let's go ahead and get on the road and see how it performs out there.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk a bit about the powertrains. Now this car really is distinctly different from the competition in both its engines as well as the drivetrain as well. Now this model comes with a 2.5 liter Skyactiv G4 cylinder as the standard engine. So that's a bigger motor, and it does indeed have more power than the competition at 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. So like I was saying, you no longer have that base 2-liter motor that you used to have in the last generation. And also the Skyactiv X engine that you may have heard of, the very innovative engine that will be coming at a later date. Now, as far as your transmission, on the sedan you only have a 6-speed automatic. The 6-speed manual is exclusive to the hatchback model. But you do still have the all-wheel drive system, and that's available as a $1,400 option on all but the very base trim level. Interestingly enough, if you go for that all-wheel drive system, or you get the top premium trim like this one is, you're actually going to have cylinder deactivation. I think that might be the first car in the class to have that. So that is a fuel saving measure, and indeed it does do pretty good for fuel economy. So your front wheel drive model is rated at 26 city, 35 highway, 30 combined, and your all wheel drive model is at 25 city, 33 highway, 28 combined. That is on the lower end of the segment. However, like I said, you are getting that bigger displacement engine and more power than what is typical in the class, so it definitely gives you the more premium experience. But anyways, now let's go ahead and take this for a quick spin. So first taking off in the 2019 Mazda 3, you can definitely tell that extra power right off the bat. Most things in this class feel rather breathless, I guess you could say. You know, a lot of times you've got low powered, low torque engines paired to like a CVT, so launch, you know, won't be too powerful. But this one you can definitely feel the extra torque and the immediate responsiveness of the 6-speed automatic transmission.
Yeah, I definitely really like how fast this car is. It definitely has one of those vibes of, it may be small, but it definitely has a quickness to it. Like Drew's mentioned many times throughout it, this is more powerful than a lot of the rivals, so that power definitely does not go unnoticed.
And also one of the things I'm noticing is the level of refinement. You know, Mazda is billing this as, you know, kind of an alternative to a cheap luxury vehicle. You know, they're moving upscale, and they do back that up with this powertrain. It is very quiet in an uncharacteristic way for the segment. Also the transmission, it is very smooth. Like I said, a lot of the rivals at this point, probably the majority, have gone to a CVT. But having this more traditional, more refined transmission, I think really adds to the overall pleasant driving.
For sure, this is not the smoothest road available here in Lexington, and you know, this car is handling it like a luxury car. You know, the ride is extremely smooth, it's quiet. This seat is probably the most comfortable seat in the class, or if not one.
This is great. It
fantastic
feels fantastic
seat. And it's real leather, and you just have a really premium ambience in here, and it's definitely backed up by the ride quality.
This car actually does not have auto start stop. Like I mentioned, Mazda's gone with a cylinder deactivation, which is pretty rare for a 4-cylinder, but you do have cylinder deactivation to save fuel, but not auto start stop. And I venture to say most people would prefer that trade-off because cylinder deactivation goes more unnoticed than a auto start stop system.
And just hitting a bump there, I do want to point out, like I had stated previously, this car, it really does ride like a luxury vehicle. I really am finding myself I don't feel like I'm in this type of vehicle. You know, I drive a Hyundai Elantra, and this does not feel like it's the same class of vehicle at all.
It does feel that extra
it feels,
caliber above.
I mean, it really does. The whole ambience, I guess the whole package together, and smooth ride and power on tap, it feels definitely a class above where it is.
But we haven't lost our traditional Mazda characteristics either in this transition to adding more luxury. this still feels very lively at the wheel. The steering is very good, and the suspension at the corner is very flatly. So we're gonna kind of round a corner here, and you can just feel that you don't have that lean that most of the rivals exhibit. So it definitely still has that fun to drive vibe, and then, you know, pair that with the more power, and you really have a great formula. You know, a lot of Mazdas in the past have, you know, had the fantastic handling and stuff, but they took criticism for having, you know, less power than the competition. This is one of the rare instances where we now have quite a bit more power, especially if you're looking at a base model. You know, if you get a lower end trim of this, you're looking at 186 horsepower versus something the Corolla, you're going to be in the 130s. So that, I mean, that's substantial. And then you pair that with the more fun to drive nature, and you really have an excellent driving overall package. Now we do also have a sport mode that we can put the model in. We also have manual shifting, so we can try that out, as well as paddle shifters here on the Premium. Well, they let you have full control over the revving. Most of the competition takes over.
Yeah.
They think you don't know how to do it, so it definitely, you know, plays into the fun to drive nature, of course.
And something worth complimenting it on is the fact that it does have paddle shifters. A couple weeks ago, we were actually in the Audi A3, which is something that this possibly could compete against, maybe a fully loaded one to a base A3. And that model does not have paddle shifters, so you know, it's a nice touch that Mazda has included it on this model, because, I mean, I know I would like to use that if I were behind the wheel, so it's nice that it is included.
But overall, I have to say, Mazda has really created a very appealing product here. It has so much just positives. You've got the luxury side and the sport side, and on both of those sections, it's better than the competition. So, you know, if you're looking for that more premium experience, you'll find it here. But if you're looking for that typical Mazda, you know, sporty feel that most of the rivals pass up on, you'll find it here as well. So it's hard not to recommend this car.
Alrighty, and let's discuss the pricing of this all-new Mazda 3 here for a minute. So you will find very competitive pricing with the rest of the competitors. So for the very base model, that is going to come in at $21,000 even for the front-wheel drive model. Now, as you want to go up the trims, you have the Select, which is $22,600. The Preferred is $24,200, and then you have this top-of-the-line Premium trim, which is $26,500. Now, if you want to add all-wheel drive, you can add that on the Mazda 3, and that's a $1,400 option across all of the trim levels. And as far as how this particular model is equipped, Mazda doesn't really offer any options, so you just pick the trim level that you want. And like I mentioned, we have option for the top-end model, so $26,500 plus the $920 destination charge, and then this particular model is $27,420. and that is with the front-wheel drive. Now, I do want to mention that that is right in line with most of the rivals. If you had all-wheel drive, it would be a little bit more expensive than stuff like the Honda Civic Touring, but in this particular configuration, it's right in line with the top-end models of the Corolla and Honda Civic.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2019 Mazda 3. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.